Okay, what I've got here for you today, I've did several other videos on how to basically do water on your garden. I told you there'd be more videos on it because it's actually pretty complex, but it's something you want to learn about and not just wing. First off, in this video, if you look close, you can see the blooms, the little tiny yellow blossoms. You can see several of them right there. Now over here, you can also see, just in that picture frame, you can see 6 or 7 or 8 different blossoms. Same over here. Can you see that? There's a whole cluster of them right there. There's quite a few. This is pretty amazing stuff, and this can help you to know if you're on track. Okay, first of all, you notice there's 2 different sets of leaves there. One of them is pentagon shaped with sharp corners, and the other is not. The other one has rounded corners. That's basically, there's a cucumber plant and a cantaloupe plant together. And if you're on track with the water, what'll happen is you'll get more blossoms. Okay? Now this comes back to the argument, are you watering once a day or are you watering several times a day? Now if you can do watering timers, that's what I'd recommend. You need to try and do more than one set of watering per day. What I've found is if you water once per day, you will not get as many blossoms, not get as many blooms, and it's because the plant gets dehydrated later in the day, particularly around the heat of the day. And this is partly also why you want to water more than once a day if you can. Now, if you're running several acres that you're growing stuff, that's hard to do. And this is the difference between if you were a big farmer versus a gardener. There's not too much difference. You both have to know a lot. You have to have a lot of techniques. You have to know how the plants work. If you've got a lot of acreage, you have no choice but to water like once or twice a week or whatever. And they basically have to do all of it in one shot with a flooding technique. But the flooding technique uses a lot more water. And this is what I talked about in the previous video a little bit. I hinted at the idea, are you watering once a day or are you watering 3, 4, or even 5 times a day? The truth is, if you water 3 or 4 or 5 times a day in a small area, you will use less water per acre than somebody who's doing flooding of massive acres. And this is what I was trying to paint a picture about and give more data on. So compare that. Back in the day and even currently, when you go to the farm, they'll have, big ditches, and they get the water from the canals and they irrigate, and maybe a couple times a week they'll flood the entire field. They'll absolutely flood it, and they just hope that with an inundation of a ton of water that they'll be able to keep the water in long enough for the plants to grow. Now you compare that with watering several times a day with a small amount of water. So when you're watering several times a day, you are not watering a lot. You are maybe doing, maybe half a liter, maybe a couple of cups on one plant. Then you come back 2 or 3 hours later and do it again. And then you come back and do it again 2 or 3 hours after that. And you do it in a cycle, trying to hit it at the same spot several times a day. And this is how they got the technique of drip irrigation. That's where it comes from. This absolutely works, and you could save water. You could use timers if if you've got some other things going on that you have to do. You can use automatic timers, but you still have to check them. The problem with using machine run systems and automatic timers is you are not checking it with your own eyes and seeing what's going on, and that leads to less knowledge, less applied skill. you're not going to learn as much. So you want to learn how to do this without machines, and then use machines and techniques after you have good knowledge. If you were teaching kids how to do agriculture or how to do farming or gardening, you'd want them to learn by hand. You'd want them to learn doing this kind of stuff and then get them into a bigger area, because this will solidify their techniques and knowledge. This is why this video could be for both everybody on the beginning on up to advanced level. Now, coming back to the number of blossoms, it's absolutely true. I've seen that if you're watering more than once a day, several times a day, you will get more blossoms. They will also be in healthier shape and better quality. The other thing is, you can ask yourself, how do I know if I'm getting enough water on the plants and optimum growth? And the way you can tell that is you'll see honeybees going in. I've seen on gardening forums where people ask how my plants have blooms, but I don't see bees going in, and I know what's going on just from how they said that. If you have ideal watering conditions, the bees will be there. They'll come and see it, and particularly in the early morning, after sunup, you'll see all kinds of different bees. Now, right now, it's almost dark. The bees have already gone home. Earlier today, I saw bees in here. I know there's enough water. So you have to be careful on evaluating water and bees on your blossoms for the last hour of daylight in a day, because the bees are kind of tired by then. They've worked all day. They won't have a lot of energy. They'll be back in the hive. But particularly before 11 o'clock a.m., from sunup until like 11 o'clock a.m., you can see bee activity really good then. You can also see bee activity in the afternoon also, because they kind of like the heat, although people don't. But those are indicators that you can use to figure out, am I getting enough water on the plants, and how do I know that? And that's it for now. Please like and subscribe.